Hello and welcome to the Blossoming Unity podcast. This is Dennis and Nicole, and we are here to introduce you into the conversation about different spiritual perceptions, techniques, and methodologies in order for you to have inspiration for your day-to-day life. Hello and welcome. Hello, Nicole.
Hello, hello. Hello, everyone listening. Thank you for joining us this week. How is everything?
Quite wonderful, to say the least. Yes, there has been some pretty heavy energy in the collective, I noticed.
Yeah.
As long as you allow
I didn't
things.
only notice them in the collective. I noticed them for myself as well.
As long as you stay, grounded, you allow it to pass through you, things should be okay.
Yeah. Everyone will.
Mm-hmm.
So I had this very wonderful online course this week about the moon centers. And it's really fascinating for me. Men have one moon center. It's here on the chin, and it's also the emotional center. It's the lotus. And women have 11 moon centers. And every 2.5 days, the moon center changes. And every moon center space has a completely different vibration. And it's by Mandev. That's the wife of Hari Jivan, the Kundalini yoga teacher, and she has created an app. It's called My Moon Map, and women can use it to find their pattern in their moon centers. And she said something so interesting. She said, well, at least a nerd finds it interesting. She said, we as human, we have different ways to maneuver ourselves around on this planet. One is to have the chakras aligned, our chakras are energetic centers, and we can project certain kind of vibrations out of each chakra, and that's what it is. And then when as a yogi or as a meditative practitioner, you can feel when some chakras are off the grid, off the line, and then you know what to do sometimes, or at least you understand that are off grid. And then we have the moon itself as a way of how energy moves, the sun and the moon with the whole tides and everything. And we as women, we have as well the moon centers. For men, it's different. Men have different, their cycles are different. But those moon teachings, I think they're really fascinating. And then Mandev, she always is doing very creative movies. She did you can Google her on YouTube. She has very beautiful movies also about the life of Guru Jagat, and very beautiful. And she's working on a movie about the actual suppression of the female energy by media, by society in general. And she was showing only 2-3 minutes of that video, that movie that she will make. And it was so sad. It's there were headlines how Hillary Clinton crying her way to Congress, and women how they're too hysterical, or in all parts of the world there were media, even the worst was women, how they treated other women. There was one interview with Cara Delevingne, the model, and you could clearly see she was not doing well. And the one person interviewing her that was the worst was the woman out of 3 people. Mm. And maybe we can speak about that a little bit. About, I don't know, it touched me deeply.
The society was Oh, for men.
From men.
And we take it to the root. What are men always trying to do? Well, unconscious men. Trying to get with women. So they created a society which is meant for men to get women. So some will argue it was for women. But when you're so lost in the ego, it's only feeding itself. Now we see the adoption of this ego. And we say it's masculine because it portrays itself to be, but it's very fluid. It doesn't take any
Yeah.
gender. So you can see, women with the ego, you see men with the ego, and whatever it is that they identify with, to be able to see the reflection. And I think we've talked about this before in our podcasts of, we put ourselves in these boxes because the mind likes to work with boxes and limitation, the ego part of the mind, right? So it's the same thing with a group of people. You put yourself in this box. This is as far as I'll go because this is as far as my ego will let me see. And it goes on with how and I could say from my point of view of the unhealthy view of relationships and the dynamics between men and women as you're growing up. I grew up in the Catholic Church. You're taught from a young age, be a man. This is men. Be a man. Be a man. No emotion. So whenever you are shown, I have emotions, but I'm not allowed to show them. You're just being a woman. And it's like, what do you mean? I never got the message. See, I grew around a lot of women who were very, very strong women. They were very, very strong in the sense of the way that they spoke, the way they stood, the way that they were, and they believed in their femininity. And they were like, you're not going to take that from me. And they didn't care who it was. So I had the privilege to grow up around very, very, very strong women. So I never looked at, a feminine woman as someone who was weak. And that's a plus for me growing up. But when I started growing up, it was like, well, we'll just say it like this, in terminology and in English, when someone's being a wuss or a scaredy cat or they're scared to do something, you call them a pussy. And it's like, balls are way more sensitive than a vagina, and you're using vagina as an insult. I'd rather be called a vagina, which can birth life and can take way more than some testicles. Yes. You call me some testicles, then we may have a problem. You call me a vagina, thank you very much.
Good for you.
So there is this dynamic. It's like, there was, through culture, you can see, especially ancient civilizations, women were the hierarchy. You went to see her. She was the one that, showed the king the way. There's an old saying, behind every strong king, there's a stronger woman. The women are so intuitive, and you spoke about the 11, moon centers. They're highly intuitive with everything that's going on. They see and feel things before anything happens. And the cool thing with that is their cycles are so quick, is they can just regenerate like it's nothing. They're constantly.
Yeah. Also, the female aura is like 16 times more stronger than the masculine aura because it's so interwoven. A female auric field, like the magnetic field of us, is called the aura, and the female auric field is way more complex than the masculine auric field. That's why we take up on so much more information. But the reason why this is because we birth life. We birth children, and therefore we need to hold another life in our aura. We need to have this capability. So the female body is birthed with this more complex auric structure, which is so fascinating. And it's what I feel is the most fascinating thing about that is like that over centuries intuition, being emotional, having emotional changes, living with the moon even. The female menstruation cycle, like that was like the connotation is so negative on all of those things, the disempowerment that we give young girls as well when it comes to such topics, um, is so huge. And it's fascinating me because I don't think we should go back. Like, we came from a matriarchal cycle, and then we went into this patriarchy the last 2000 years. And I deeply, deeply hope that we're not going back to matriarchy, because I think that is not the goal. Because once again, I think I said that in another podcast as well, the suffering is on both sides, is on both ends of the like, men are suffering deeply in this society, deeply. Women, but women too. Like, the female is suffering and the male is suffering. So I but I agree that in order to free them both, um, women and those female teachings also like those teachings of the moon center, they're like, nobody ever really experienced them. And what they're doing with this My Moon map, um, those are free calls, and they're gathering data. Like, for example, when for example, on the hairline, it's a very powerful moon center for a woman. And on the hairline, there's also your arc line. And your arc line is what would shine when you would be Jesus, or like a holy person. Their arc line is shining. And women have another arc line on their from one nipple to the other, and they have more arc lines. But one moon center is in the arc line for women. So when a woman is in this arc line moon center, she feels very powerful. She's very, she can project very well. Prosperity is like coming in very automatically. But then, for example, here there is a moon center on the cheeks, where you're more likely to be very emotional, very like experience more uh, emotions which are more dense and more difficult. There's one on the earlobe, there is on the nipples, there is between the thighs and the vagina, on the clitoris there's also moon center. And like the goal, she said that, and I like, to me, this is the teaching is like the goal is to have the moon days, like the physical moon. In Kundalini Yoga, we always practice on new moon, full moon, 10th and 11th day of the moon, more yoga, because they're very important days. And so you have your chakras aligned, you have the moon, you maneuver with the moon, and then you have your moon centers aligned, because there's always a positive and a negative to all the moon centers as well. Um, this gives you a completely new vibration of of female energy on this planet. And that's what they're doing. That there are over 200 women from all over the world. Like, if some of you want to participate, like go there, like do it. And they're all now entering the data, so we can have more data on the moon centers, so we can have like more sophisticated information about kriyas, about meditation, about food, about fasting days. For women, some fasting days are very important, and not like a week of fasting, but for example, on the 10th day of the moon, you're fasting, or on the 11th day of the moon, you're fasting. And this could be also in your cycle. So I think this whole like, as a woman, to have your cycle, also, like, how is your own periodic cycle aligned with the moon itself? I know a lot of women that have new moon days or full moon, they have their period. And also this transitioning between new moon and full moon periods, like this is so fascinating. And all of that creates a new vibration where you're like more in you're more in line with being female. And yeah, that's what I think is the new type of feminine, the new type of feminism in this world. And the same for the masculine. The masculine is like, there's so many men that suffered like deeply, not only from their own lifetime, but like from an ancestor line of trauma in war, trauma in protecting their family, protecting their mothers, daughters, sons, children. Like, and there's so much density when it comes to the emotional body. And like on TikTok, there's this very funny guy. He's like, I think he's a Chinese guy or something, and he says emotional damage. But like, that's how it looks in very often. You can see in masculine bodies that the emotional body of a man is rather dense, and the structures are rather broken. That's why it's so difficult to open up in the emotions for men.
See, with my emotions, I always felt them very, very heavily. And what you were just going into right then
But
was,
they're inside.
yeah, oh, big time.
You're not allowed to let them out. You're not allowed to let
Mhm.
them flow, because emotions are like water. Like the element for the emotional body is water.
And with me not understanding the emotions, for not being able to actually feel them and process them, they became very, very big in my perception. Um, so I would feel them really, really big. So when I look at emotions, they're almost like a thought to me as well. Obviously, I still feel them, but they really resonate when it comes to thought, because you can, when you really start breaking down, you start witnessing like your thought processes, and then you see the emotions that are intertwined and connected with them, and it's all a big, jumble. Thoughts are pretty quick, and then emotions are, they take time, right? They take time to process. They're a little bit longer. And through the journey that I had to go through with connecting with the emotions, there was so much resistance to allowing myself to feel. So it was like, if fear would arise, it would just grab hold of me. And
Yeah.
I couldn't let it go. And it was just inside, and it was just pulling and pulling and pulling. And love, if I felt love, it was inside. It was so big, but I wasn't able to express it fully. If I wanted to be vulnerable, get out of here. No way, no how. I need to protect myself. I need to protect this. See, what was actually happening was, because of the idea that we have put on, and I'm not going to say just men, because there's women who
Yeah.
you're too emotional. It constantly, because what was happening with men is, when you're taught, well, at least from my perspective, I was taught, don't feel it, keep it to yourself. Therefore, my mind was trained to do the same thing to myself. And therefore, a reflection of that is, oh, she's too emotional. And that's what I'm seeing within the collective, is they're showing a reflection of how they
Of
were taught to
course.
treat their own self. So whenever we look at this, we go, well, you're treating people how you were taught to treat yourself, how you were taught to treat your system.
Yeah.
So whenever I saw someone feel really big emotions, and I would empathize, because I could feel them, but at the same time I was like, get away from me. There's no way,
Yeah,
you shouldn't
because
feel this way, because I wasn't allowed to feel this way. So when you really start going into your journey, you start recognizing, wow, I'm treating myself how I was taught to treat myself, and how I was treated. There's an illusion there, because that's not the way. I get to choose the way. And the feeling of the emotions is very natural. It's a very natural process. I'm a human being. No matter what I have between my legs or what I identify with, I'm a human being who has feelings. I'm a human being who has thoughts. Now, anytime a thought comes in that is quote unquote negative, why am I viewing that negative? Why can't it just be there? Another fight that I was taught, you shouldn't think that way. Oh, if you think sinful thoughts, you're going to hell. Okay. Well, now I've trained myself to reflect what I was taught out in the physical. So when you really start being able to recognize, wow, this is something that I taught, everything that I'm doing is something that's been taught to me. How can I unlearn that? Is there a process or an action that I can take? If not, how can I sit there and watch it? What does that do? And when you start going through the journey of like action after action, because we are taught as well to take action towards everything. When something's up wrong, you got to take action towards it. If something isn't working, take action. Keep going, keep going, keep going, which can work in a lot of things. But when it comes to this system, it works completely different. So now you have to understand the system. And there's no blueprint. You got to go, you got to sit there with it. You got to sit with that emotion. You got to sit with that thought. You got to watch the thoughts. Like you got to question the thoughts. And when you start questioning the thoughts, you notice, wow, there's a spaciousness in between them. So then we're able to see where the reflections are and where, again, the ego comes into play with these identities that we carry. The identity of, let's say your father told you, you're not allowed to feel this way. You shouldn't cry. You shouldn't show emotion. You need to be a badass motherfucker, and you need to just toughen it up, be a man. Now you're treating everything in life with that same knife. You're cutting everything up. Yeah. In moments when you need to be gentle with your children or with a person, a stranger, something to be empathetic with someone who's quote unquote less fortunate, or someone who's homeless, who's down in the rump, you're going to treat them that you need to toughen up. You need to be a badass motherfucker. Now you're disconnected from your emotions. You're not connecting with their emotions. And now you're just living through life as a knife, cutting everything up in your way. And that's very chaotic and very dangerous. Now, when you're a man and you allow yourself to feel and actually feel, sit there, watch these emotions, feel the resistance, that's more courageous than saying, fuck these emotions, I'm not dealing with it. And just going through life causing a bunch of chaos. The chaos is happening within you and you're just reflecting it out into the world. Mm. Damn, I just got real passionate with that shit.
That's good. I think it's important that a man says those words. I'm very happy that I'm blessed to do podcasts with men as well, because I think it's so important for men to hear that from men, because by the structure how men work in general, it's so much easier for them to like really interconnect with other men. It's just what it is. Me as a female, I can tell you 100 years that you should be able to feel what you feel, but that doesn't do shit for a man. Like it is what it is. I fully agree with you. I think fascinating enough, the disconnection of everyone inside of the people inside is showing though this topic in the outside world so much.
Big.
And big time, especially like what I see also in this whole feminist movement, or in this movement of divine masculine feminine love relationships and all of that, the twin flame stuff and everything. What I find really fascinating is how much disconnection it shows in yourself. Like of that nurturing female part, because we all, no matter if you're incarnated in a female or in a masculine body, we all have this feminine energy within us and the masculine energy within us, and the feminine energy is the nurturing part. And like when I meet women which are like big in this movement, in this feminist movement, I'm always telling them like, look, I really love you for doing that, but try to find the nurturing part within you. Otherwise you wouldn't be triggered. Like you wouldn't be triggered about men, or about like, even when people are telling me like, yeah, in business world, women are not getting paid the same and are not like, I worked in corporate for 20 years. I got paid a shit ton of money, and not a man was paid more than me in the same position. And because it's not my topic, it's not a topic that I generally have, but in society, like in a collective, we do have this topic of like not being nurturing with each other. And then like we're reflecting that on like here in Europe, it's big, like, yeah, those poor women in Saudi Arabia, and those poor women in the UAE and in the Middle East, they have to wear hijabs, and like, and feminist movement over there. Yeah, but no, because if you ever spoke to a woman there,
Mhm.
they're so nurturing. Like I've experienced the biggest sisterhoods in Morocco and the UAE. In like I was there with them, and I've never ever felt like less hatred around women than there. You were like hugged by their love for another woman, because there is no need to fight another woman. So it's, I think this is, to me, like stepping into this new time over the next, like, let's say 15 years that we're going in like this transitioning phase from one to the other until 2036. Like if I could place a seed of a wish seed here and now in this, like in this new moon phase of Aries in 2022, I would wish that like people would really find this nurturing part within themselves and find the protective power of the masculine within themselves. Like, and this is what's currently in my own life, in my own journey on this planet. This is currently what I'm working on the most, like finding this masculine, my own inner masculine, this inner security, and and like feel safe on planet Earth, because there is a part of me that doesn't feel safe at all, nowhere alone. Like the urge for a masculine man to save, to create safety is so big, and which is absolutely nonsense, because I live in the in the safest country on planet Earth. Like, it's so stupid. Like, there's no actual um thing. But and this is like the big transitioning, like how can you be your own masculine and create a safe space within you, and then how can you be your own inner feminine and be nurturing and be kind-hearted and be compassionate, and like, but be compassionate with yourself. And like, if I could wish something for 2036, like if like more than half of the population of planet Earth would figure that shit out, and that's not so much, I think planet Earth would change drastically. Because then the reflection in the outside world wouldn't need to be war anymore, wouldn't need to be pandemics and control issues and vaccination issues um, and climate change issues. All of that is just a reflection of our lack of the inner feminine work, of the nurturing energies within us. That was deep.
You heard it live, folks. You heard it live. There's a lot of change that'll continue to happen.
Yeah, it
And,
has
you
to.
know, as we grow, as more people awaken and waken into their journey, and they start recognizing and, the breaking down of things that they're not. It's when you recognize all the things that you're not and you start touching the thing that you are, it's hard not to treat everything with respect and love and compassion, no
Yeah.
matter what, you know, you're identified as. Yeah, this body's masculine, but is that my identity? No.
No.
I, a lot of the practices that I do are more, understood or seen as a masculine practice, but I don't go into it that way. It just is what it is.
Mm.
So it's the more that we recognize what we're not, it's like, okay, well, if I'm not, these motor vehicles, or if I'm not this belief system that it has to be one particular way, then you recognize, oh, there's some more fluid actions we could take, probably something that would help others, because I recognize myself as a piece of life. And oh, you're a piece of life too. We're life. That tree, that water over there, that spring, that rabbit, it's all life. And you're no longer seeing that separation. Though we can use the separation for survival, obviously, we don't want to, put ourselves in that situation. We don't want to go too soon, but it's no longer an internal belief system that I have to be separate from life, it's me against life, because you'll never win that battle.
Ever. Yeah, and you also get this, like, from that point, you are able to live this joy. Like, people always want to pursue happiness, but I think happiness is just a state, is a moment, and it's not. I don't find it very interesting. What I find very interesting is to emanate joy. But the emanation of joy in a lot of spaces nowadays are like perceived as difficult for society, because like, if you're emanating joy, what you create is you create a lot of energy in a space, and people feel that, and it's really uncomfortable for them. So
I won't say for everyone.
no, not for everyone.
There's a lot of spaces that that I go into, and I'm just feeling this joy. It's just emanating. It's not really a feeling. It's just it is a feeling, but it's not a feeling. It's a state of vibration. You're
Yeah.
just radiating everywhere, and you just see the change in the atmosphere. Everything changes.
Yeah.
The way people are talking to each other, like going into a grocery store and you're just emanating this joy. Like, yeah, there's an unease at first. They're like, who the hell just walked in here? What the hell's about to happen? Because
Yeah.
they're so used to not feeling it or experiencing it, that when they get into that, everything just sort of unconsciously starts changing. They're just like, oh, look at that. The way they start picking up their boxes or their fruits, and they start you see the way people pick up, like, produce. They're picking up produce, and then you walk in, and then they're just like extra gentle, looking at it and kind of being more observant. It's so bizarre. It is so beautiful to watch. It's like, wow, this person was really just all over the place, and then they just calmed down, and now they're just paying attention to this produce.
The nervous system reacts immediately.
Yeah.
Instant. I had this very fascinating encounter last Saturday. I was out with my sister for her birthday party. The first time within 2.5 years that I was like going out in a club, like dancing, like actual dancing. And I enjoyed myself so much. But we were standing like at the bar. There was a little table, and a man had his jacket on the table, and he was like, "Could you watch the jacket? I quickly go somewhere." And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And then, like 15 minutes later, he came back, and he's like, "Is the jacket still there?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." And then he thought I was bitchy, but I was not at all. And he said, like, I said, "Yeah, my handbag is there, so don't worry. I looked for your jacket." And then he looked at me, and he tried to figure out once again, like, is she really nice? Like, and then he talked to me again, and then I was reacting nicely again, and he was so shocked about that. He's like, you could tell how it kicked in. He's like, "Oh my God, she's just nice and nurturing. Like, there's no negative energy." Like, and then he wanted to invite me for a drink, and I was like, no, we're going. But it's very fascinating how people are not used to those vibrations anymore. And there is a mistrust in it as well. Also, when you're like, when I walk around smiling, like, I smile a lot. Like, when I go outside and I go shopping, I see people, and then I smile at them. Like, I'm like, "Hi." people look at you like you want to steal something from them. It's so fascinating just because you're there
It's
and
just shock. It's
it's a shock.
shock.
It's a
I know.
shock.
I drive, and whenever I'm driving,
Yeah,
like I'm just like sitting there, and I'm just gonna go, and I see people, and I just smile.
me too.
Yeah, and they're just like, what? Like no one,
What?
because they don't get that. Yeah,
Yeah,
and it has a lot to do with people being trapped in their own minds constantly, and they're just getting, their veil over and over and over. The
yeah,
veil is just constantly there. So when they're able to be aware that it's there, that there are people who will sit there and smile, it like shuts down their veil for a second. They're like, oh, and
oh,
it just makes their day. And then
no.
they go about right back into their
Again.
veil. So, a lot of the topics that we talked about today, first and foremost, I do want to make this, heard. It all starts with you. It all starts with the person. It all
Very
starts with
important.
you. Yeah, it starts with you going inside. It goes, learning learning that body. What is it that you identify with? What is it that you are? What is it that you're not? You going within will help facilitate so much change just by doing that. You can't change the world by not changing you first, because by changing you, and when I say change you, I mean you recognize what you are and what you're not. That's the change. That's the evolutionary change. You recognizing that will have an impact on everything throughout the cosmos.
Everything. And you matter. I think
Yes.
that's also very important. When I read those posts on Instagram or I don't know, Facebook or social media somewhere, where like people like back in the days when I saw those posts like you are important or the you matter to this planet, and that's always like I never fully like I knew that it was true, like I instantly knew that there's some truth in it, but I couldn't grab the like the whole size of the truth,
Mm,
how true it is. And like I really feel to say today, like you do matter, like you matter a lot, not only to your family and to your loved ones and to your friends. You matter the shit out of this planet, like
mm,
it's so important that you're here. And no matter where you go, whether it's the grocery store, in a restaurant, if you go to the gas station, to work, you matter. And your vibration, your heart, your joy, your everything, even the most negative emotions that you're holding, they matter, because what you do is you give a reflection to someone to experience himself within this cosmos. Like even if you're in the most stupid, most negative, shitty state and you feel like you're a burden for everyone, you're not, because someone needs to have that reflection. Someone needs to see exactly that. So live your emotions. Like I needed to learn that to like if someone made me angry, I needed to learn to let that out at in this moment. Like I was so trained to be always friendly and to like, oh yeah, you know, people could like like be very unfriendly with me and I would still be like very friendly and I would be like, oh yeah, I'm sorry that I exist. No, like you do, like you can like let out what there is because it matters, because the reflection matters, because you matter. Yeah, that's all I feel to say for today.
yes. Um, I have a different view of the whole anger. I think it's a waste of your energy. But especially like in your case, always growing up having to be friendly, it was something that you had to go through for you to be
Of
able to
course.
let that. It was a major lesson. It was a major transformation for you, which is beautiful. And a lot of people need to go through that. It's just like, when you hear spiritual teachers say, like, you know, do you need to have a good self-esteem to be able to recognize that not having a good self-esteem is not what you want? It's like, do you have to go through particular things to be able to recognize, oh, I'm not this thing? So it's beneficial in all its way. Like some people need to go through excruciating, heavy, painful situations and shit for them to finally be like, I'm done. There's something more here. Then there's other people
as long as you're still holding the vibration in your body, you will attract it.
oh,
Then
for
you
sure.
might as well learn it.
Mm-hmm.
Because like today, like I don't meet anyone that's not meeting my boundaries anymore. Like it's just not happening because I'm not holding the vibration anymore within, so I don't have to see it anymore. That's the whole reality. Like, so you're only attracting situations like that if you're still holding a vibrational match to it. And then you might as well give the direct reflection,
Bow!
bow.
Look out my face. Yeah, I was very angry for a very long time. So
I know.
that was one of my great teachers was anger. But it wasn't really anger. It was anger. That's how it came out, was anger. But it was from what we started talking about before, not being able to feel, not being able to be open. So every single emotion got put in this pot, and this pot started boiling and heating up and heating up and heating up. And then,
and they had to get bigger and bigger because you never listened.
yeah. And then I just had to blow up. And
Atomic bomb.
yeah. And it's been a very, very long time since that's ever happened. I haven't, it doesn't even arise anymore, the anger.
Because you're not holding it anymore.
It's just like I got energy for other things.
Yeah, I love it.
Is that it? Did we hit all the points we wanted to hit this week?
We the plan that we have, you mean? The excruciated plan that we always do each week, not?
Right.
We never have a plan.
Ever. We let it happen. We let it happen so organically and naturally. Yes.
So
it's the way to do it.
I think we're good with it.
Yes.
This week. That was a beautiful talk. I really appreciated it.
I think there's a lot of great points, especially with talking about, the feminine and the masculine and, being able to, you touched on the moon points and, the energy centers and the different aspects when you're looking at the physical bodies and then seeing the societal understandings of how each is treated. I think this was very beneficial in a lot of ways. But also remember, folks, it's not what we say, it's where it points you to. Bang, 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 bang.
Okay.
We did add a sound effect there.
Yeah. I won't do that, but like imagine the sound effect there, please.
Ellie Vision blossoming.
Mic drop moment.
All right, everyone. Have a beautiful week.
Thank you for listening, everyone, and enjoy your week. Hopefully this helped a little bit. And see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, bye.